The Thursday it started, I was doing something normal. I had taken my shoes off by the door and loosened my hair tie with one hand, while the other poured a cheap drink into a short glass. My apartment was quiet in that end-of-day way, just the soft hum of the fridge and the muted traffic from the street below. I was still in work clothes, a blazer that smelled faintly like office coffee. My laptop bag slumped against the couch like it was tired too. Then my front door opened. Not a knock, not a text, just the sound of a key turning like it belonged there. My mother walked in without looking at me like a person. She walked in like I was a problem she needed to solve. She didn't ask how my day went, didn't pretend she was stopping by for anything human. She stood in the middle of my living room, arms crossed, already irritated, like I was late to a meeting I never agreed to. "Renee," she said, using my full first name the way she always did when she wanted control. "Your brother's wedding is in 8 weeks. He needs $15,000. It wasn't phrased as a question. I set the glass down carefully, not because I was calm, but because I knew if I moved too fast, I'd say something I couldn't take back. "That's my savings," I said. My voice came out steady, but my chest felt tight. She gave a small shrug like I'd mentioned the weather. "You don't need it right now. He does." I stared at her for a second, trying to match what she was saying to reality. I was 26. I worked as a project coordinator at a civil engineering firm in Columbus. Not a glamorous job, not some high-paying title, just long days, deadlines, spreadsheets, and the kind of steady stress that makes you tired even after 8 hours of sleep. For 3 years, I'd built that savings account. Extra shifts, no vacations, saying no to dinners, trips, anything that felt like fun when rent was due and my student loan autopay was waiting. I hadn't built it because I wanted luxury. I'd built it because I wanted peace. "I've been building that for 3 years," I said. My mother's expression didn't change. "Your brother is starting his life," she replied. "This is his special day. Family comes first." Then she tilted her head slightly, as if she was genuinely confused why I wasn't agreeing. "Or did I raise you to be selfish?" That word, selfish, landed exactly where she meant it to. In the soft spot I'd spent most of my life trying to protect. I grew up knowing where I stood, not front and center, not cherished, not protected. That spot belonged to my younger brother, Caleb. From the moment he was born, everything in our house rearranged itself around him. My mother called him her miracle, her second chance, her baby boy. And I was the dependable one, the quiet one, the one who didn't need much, because apparently I was strong enough to survive without it. Caleb went to private school. Caleb got a car at 16. Caleb never worried about tuition, rent, groceries, any of the little adult weights that add up. I learned early how to stretch a paycheck, how to work nights and study mornings, how to smile through disappointment and label it independence. When my friends took trips after graduation, I took extra hours. When Caleb talked about his dreams, I learned how to survive. Favoritism doesn't always look dramatic when you grow up inside it. Sometimes it's just the background noise of your life until it isn't. That night, in my living room, it stopped being background noise. I took a breath. I kept my voice even. "Caleb is 25, I said. "His fiancé works. Together they make more than I do. If they can't afford the wedding they want, they should scale it down." My mother's eyes sharpened immediately. "So you're going to embarrass your brother?" she said, her voice suddenly louder without quite becoming a shout. "Let him walk down the aisle in some bargain place because his sister is greedy." There it was, the familiar move, not asking me to help, forcing me to defend myself, making me the villain in a story where I hadn't done anything wrong. I thought about the times I'd covered things for her, a car payment she forgot, a medical bill that wasn't really urgent until it was. I thought about the way Caleb's emergencies always seemed to become my responsibility. Then I looked at her, and I made a decision I'd never made out loud before. "I'm not paying for the wedding," I said. The room went quiet, heavy and still. My mother didn't argue right away. She just stared at me like she was taking inventory. Finally, she spoke, low and controlled. "You're making a mistake," she said. "A big one." Then she turned and walked out. She didn't slam the door like a teenager. She closed it hard enough to shake the frame, like she wanted the apartment itself to understand she was angry. I stood there for a while after she left, my drink untouched, looking at my front door like it had changed shape. I should have changed my locks that night. I should have frozen my credit. I should have treated it like what it was, an escalation. But I didn't, because part of me still believed there were lines even she wouldn't cross. And because admitting I needed to protect myself from my own mother felt like stepping into a different life. I rinsed the glass, set it in the sink, and tried to move on like the evening was still normal. I checked my calendar for the next day, laid my badge and keys on the counter, plugged my phone in, then I went to bed. And sometime after midnight, while my apartment was quiet and I was asleep, my front door made a sound I didn't hear. A sound I would recognize later, a soft click, a key turning, and a person walking into my home like it belonged to them. I didn't know any of that yet. All I knew was that when I woke up Friday morning, my phone was vibrating nonstop on the nightstand, missed calls, text alerts, and a number I'd never saved labeled Fraud Department. I sat up slowly, heart already in my throat, and stared at the screen until my eyes focused. Then I reached for the phone and answered. I didn't say hello right away. My thumb hovered over the screen for a second, like if I waited long enough, whatever was happening might decide to be less real. Then I answered. "This is Cornerstone Card Services," a woman said, calm and professional. "May I speak with Renee?" "Yes," I said. My voice sounded dry. "This is her." "Ms. Park, we've detected unusual activity on your account overnight. We tried to reach you earlier. Are you in a safe place to talk?" I looked around my bedroom, pale morning light coming through the blinds, my work bag on the chair, nothing out of place at first glance. "Yes," I said. "What kind of activity?" There was a pause as she pulled up the details. "We're seeing multiple charges totaling $14,800 and some change," she said. "They are currently pending. Did you authorize any of these?" My stomach tightened so sharply it felt physical. "No," I said. "Okay," she replied, not surprised, just moving through procedure. "Do you recognize the merchants?" "I haven't even looked yet," I said. "I can read them to you, or you can open your account while we're on the phone," she offered. I sat up, pushed the blanket off my legs, and opened my banking app with fingers that suddenly felt stupid and clumsy. The login screen felt like it was taking too long. My own face in the little selfie verification circle looked pale and half awake. My checking account was fine. That was the first thing I saw. For a split second, relief flickered. Then I tapped over to the credit card, and the numbers hit me like a cold drop. A list of charges stacked one after another, all time-stamped between 12:18 a.m. and 1:03 a.m. The top line was a venue deposit, $5,000. I scrolled. Catering, 4,000 something. Photography package, a few thousand. Flowers, dress alterations, decorations, rentals. My throat tightened. The air in the room felt thinner. "Ms. Park?" the woman said gently. "Are you seeing them?" "Yes," I said, but it came out as more of a breath than a word. "Do you recognize any of these vendors?" I stared at the list, and something almost worse than panic settled in. Clarity. The amounts, the timing, the category of purchases. It wasn't random fraud. It wasn't someone testing a stolen number. This was planned. "This is for a wedding," I said quietly. "Okay," the representative replied. "Thank you. Next question. Has anyone else had access to this card, or access to your home where the card might be stored?" My chest tightened again. The card wasn't in my wallet. I didn't carry it. I barely used it. It sat in a small envelope in the back of my desk drawer, the same place I kept my passport and a folder of documents I didn't like thinking about. There were only a few people who'd ever been in my apartment. My closest friend, Evan, my building manager once to fix a leak, and my mother. She still had a key. She'd made sure of that years ago, framing it like a safety thing, like she was being responsible, like I was being dramatic for not wanting it. My mother has a key, I said. The words tasted strange in my mouth. She came over last night. She demanded $15,000 for my brother's wedding. There was a small pause on the line. Not judgment. Just the kind of pause that means the script changes. I'm really sorry, the woman said carefully. In that case, we can absolutely begin the dispute process. We'll block the card and issue a new one. But when the suspected party is someone you know, especially family, the bank typically requires a police report as part of the investigation. A police report. My brain snagged on that like it was a foreign object. Okay, I said, because it was the only word I had. I'll place a freeze on the account immediately, she continued. The charges are pending, which is good. Some merchants will still capture the funds, but we'll flag them. You should also consider changing your locks and reviewing any other accounts for unusual activity. Right, I said. She asked me a few more verification questions. Address, last payment amount, security words, all the little details you answer on autopilot until the moment you realize you're answering them because your own mother may have walked into your home while you slept. When the call ended, I sat on the edge of my bed, phone in my hand, staring at nothing. My apartment felt different. The same walls, the same furniture, the same quiet. But something fundamental had shifted. It wasn't just the money. It was the invasion. The idea of her hands in my desk drawer, her eyes on my paperwork, her confidence that she could take what she wanted and I'd fall back into place. I got up and walked into the living room. I didn't even know what I was looking for. A sign, a clue, proof that I wasn't losing my mind. My desk drawer slid open easily. The envelope was there, but it sat slightly crooked, like it had been put back by someone who didn't care how it looked as long as it looked good enough. The card slot was empty. I stood there for a long moment, hands at my sides, breathing shallowly. Then my phone rang again. This time it was Evan. I answered without thinking. Renee, he said immediately. You sound off. What's going on? I didn't try to soften it. I didn't try to turn it into something smaller. I just told him, line by line, the way you tell someone facts when you're trying to keep your voice from shaking. My mother came over last night. She demanded $15,000. I said no. This morning my credit card has $15,000 in wedding charges. I think she took it. Evan didn't interrupt. I heard him exhale once, slow and controlled. When I finished, he was quiet for a beat. Then he said very calmly, If you don't stop this now, it won't be the last time. I closed my eyes. I know, I said. You need to file the report, he continued, and you need to change your locks. Today, not next week, not after you cool down. Today. I know, I repeated softer. Are you safe right now? He asked. I looked around the apartment again. Nothing was happening. No noise, no footsteps, just the hum of the fridge. Yes, I said. I'm safe. Okay, he said. Stay there. Don't go to her house. Don't try to negotiate in person. Keep everything in writing and call your dad. The last part landed heavier than the rest. My parents had divorced when I was 19. It wasn't the screaming kind of divorce. It was the exhausted kind. The kind where someone quietly packs a bag and leaves and everyone pretends it was mutual to save face. I hadn't dragged my dad into much since then. Not because he didn't care. Because I hated being the reason anyone had to deal with her. But Evan was right. This wasn't a normal family fight. Okay, I said. I'll come by, Evan added. I can sit with you while you do the report and the lock change. You shouldn't do this alone. My throat tightened. "Thank you," I said, and I meant it. When we hung up, I stared at my phone for a second, then opened my contacts. My mother's name was there. Same as it always had been. I didn't want to call her, not because I was afraid of her voice, but because I knew exactly what it would be. Light, dismissive, like I was overreacting to a small inconvenience she'd created. Still, I needed one thing confirmed. I needed to hear her deny it, or admit it, or say something that made the next step feel unavoidable. So I called. She picked up on the third ring. Her voice was bright, almost cheerful. "Good morning," she said. "I hope you've had time to think." I stared at the wall, letting that sink in. Then I said very evenly, "You took my credit card." There was a short silence, and then a soft laugh, like I'd made a joke that wasn't very good. "Oh, honey," she said. "Don't be dramatic. I didn't steal anything. I just handled it. Caleb needed help and you were being stubborn." The casual way she said it made my skin go cold. "I want the card back," I said, "and you're canceling every charge today." She laughed again, smaller this time. "It's already done," she replied. "Deposits are non-refundable. You'll thank me when you see how beautiful everything turns out." My chest burned, not with explosive anger, but with something tighter and sharper. "So that's it," I said. "You break into my apartment, destroy my credit, and I'm supposed to smile." "What are you going to do?" she asked, calm as ever. "Call the police on your own mother?" She said it like it was impossible, like the idea itself was ridiculous. And that was the moment something shifted inside me. Not rage, not a speech, just a decision, quiet and complete. "You have 24 hours, I said. "Return every dollar, or I file a police report." She scoffed, like she couldn't even see me clearly anymore. "You wouldn't," she said. "You don't have it in you." I didn't argue. I didn't threaten. I didn't explain. I just hung up. Then I put the phone face down on the counter and stood there in the quiet for a moment, listening to the apartment like it was a new place. After that, I opened my laptop. I created a folder and named it simply Evidence, and I started saving everything. The first thing I did was make coffee, not because I wanted it, because my hands needed something to do, and I needed the smell of something familiar in the room while my brain reorganized itself. I carried the mug to my desk and opened my bank account on my laptop so I could see everything at once. Bigger screen, less room for denial. Then I wrote a timeline, not a diary, not feelings, just facts. Thursday, 7:12 p.m. Mom entered apartment with her key. Thursday, 7:14 p.m. Demand $15,000 for Caleb's wedding. Thursday, 7:20 p.m. I refused. Thursday, 7:27 p.m. She left. Friday, 6:48 a.m. Fraud alert start. Friday, 6:59 a.m. I confirm $14K plus in wedding charges. Friday, 7:12 a.m. Mom admits handling it on phone call. I saved the document. I took screenshots of the charges. I downloaded the list of transactions into a PDF. I put every file into that folder. Then I called my building manager. His name was Mr. Patel. He was the kind of man who fixed things quickly and spoke gently, like he'd learned that calm voices made residents calmer too. "Renee," he said when he recognized my number. "Everything okay?" "I need a favor," I said. "Do we have hallway cameras on my floor?" There was a pause. "Yes. Why?" "I think someone entered my unit last night without permission," I said. I didn't say my mother yet, not because I was protecting her, because I didn't want the conversation to get messy. "Okay," he said, voice immediately more serious. "What time?" "Between midnight and 1, I replied, using the timestamps from the charges as a guide. "If you can pull footage of my door, I'd appreciate it. I can come down and sign whatever you need." "Give me an hour," he said. "I'll check." While I waited, I called a locksmith. I didn't browse reviews. I didn't shop around. I chose the first company that answered with a human voice and had availability. "Today," I told him. As soon as possible. Then I called my dad. I hadn't spoken to him in a couple of weeks. Just quick texts, normal check-ins. We weren't estranged. We just weren't close in the way people imagine fathers and daughters being close, not after the kind of divorce we'd lived through. He answered on the second ring. "Renee?" he said, like he could hear something wrong before I said a word. "Dad," I replied, swallowing. "I need help, I need advice, and I need you to just listen for a minute." "Okay," he said. "Go." So I told him, not in a dramatic way, just in order, the demand, the refusal, the charges, the call where she admitted it like it was normal. When I finished, there was silence on the line, not because he didn't believe me, because he did. Then he said quietly, "She finally did it." My throat tightened. "Did what?" "Stopped pretending," he answered. "Renee, I'm sorry. I wanted you out of her reach years ago." I stared at my coffee mug, the steam curling up and disappearing like it was trying to leave. "I'm filing a police report," I said. "Good," he replied immediately. No hesitation. No, "Are you sure?" "I hate that I have to," I added, and that was the closest I got to emotion in that moment. "You don't," he said, voice steady. "She made that choice when she opened your door." I nodded even though he couldn't see me. Then he said, "Do you still have the envelope?" I blinked. "What envelope?" "The one I told you about," he said carefully. "Your grandfather's trust paperwork." My stomach turned. A few years earlier, right after Grandpa passed, my dad had mentioned a trust. He'd said it like a warning, not like a gift. "Your grandfather didn't trust your mother," he'd told me once. At the time, I'd shrugged it off. It sounded harsh. It sounded like old resentment. Now it felt like a light turning on in a room I'd been living in without noticing the walls. "I don't have it," I said. "I never asked for it." "Okay," he said. "I'm going to overnight you a copy. And Renee, listen to me. If this gets legal, you want to understand every lever you have, not just the obvious one." A lever. That word stayed with me, because this whole situation felt like my mother had been pulling levers my entire life. Guilt, obligation, silence, family pressure, and for the first time, I was going to learn the ones she couldn't control. We got off the phone, and I didn't sit down. I kept moving. I checked my credit report, not because I wanted to, because I needed to know if this was the only thing she'd touched. I set up a credit freeze with all 3 bureaus, then saved the confirmation numbers into my folder. I updated passwords, banking, email, anything that mattered. Then I remembered something important. The call. The one where she laughed and said she handled it. My state allows one-party consent recording. I knew that because my firm had a compliance training last year, and I'd paid attention. So I opened my phone's call log and took screenshots showing the date, time, and duration. Not proof by itself, but a thread. At 9:30 a.m., Evan knocked on my door. I let him in without a hug, without small talk, like we were walking into a meeting. He set a pizza box down on my counter, even though it was morning. "You eat when you can," he said. Then he looked at me. Really looked. "You're doing the right thing," he said. "I know," I replied, and I meant it. By late morning, the locksmith arrived. He was polite, quick, and didn't ask questions. He replaced the deadbolt and the knob lock, tested both, and handed me 3 new keys. When he asked if I wanted extra copies, I said, "No. 1 for me. 1 spare for Evan." That was it. When the door clicked shut behind him, I stood there for a moment with my hand on the new lock. The feeling wasn't victory, it was relief, like I'd closed a gate that should have been closed years ago. At 12:07 p.m., Mr. Patel called me back. "I have the footage," he said. "You should come down." I grabbed my laptop and my phone, then walked downstairs with Evan beside me. Mr. Patel met us in the office and pulled up the camera feed on a monitor. He rewound to just after midnight. My hallway appeared on screen. Dim lighting, beige walls, the elevator at the far end. Then, at 12:16 a.m., my front door opened, and my mother walked into frame. No hesitation, no sneaking, no looking around like she was afraid of being seen. She walked in like she was checking on a property she owned. The timestamp kept rolling. At 12:56 a.m., she walked back out. She carried her purse against her side, the strap pulled tight, like it was heavier than when she arrived. I didn't speak. Evan didn't speak either. Mr. Patel cleared his throat gently. "Do you want a copy?" "Yes," I said. He exported the clip and saved it to a USB drive. Then he printed a short statement confirming the camera location and the timestamps, and signed it. He didn't need to do that. He chose to. I thanked him, and we left. In my car, I stared at the USB drive sitting in my palm like it was something fragile. Evan glanced over at me. "Okay," he said. "Now you go to the police station." I nodded. We drove there in silence. The station smelled like old paper and disinfectant. The waiting area chairs were hard plastic bolted to the floor. A TV in the corner played a morning talk show with the sound off. When my name was called, I followed a uniformed officer down a hallway into a small interview room. A detective introduced herself as Morales. She had tired eyes and a steady voice, like she'd heard every version of, "I can't believe this is happening," and still took people seriously anyway. "What brings you in today?" she asked. I set my folder on the table and slid it toward her. "My mother broke into my apartment," I said calmly. "She took my credit card and used it to charge nearly $15,000 for my brother's wedding." Detective Morales opened the folder and began reviewing what I'd brought. Screenshots, printed statements, the timeline, the credit freeze confirmations, the call log screenshots. Then I handed her the USB drive. "And that," I added, "is the hallway footage." She watched the clip with her jaw set, expression shifting slowly from neutral to concerned. When it ended, she looked at me. "This is substantial evidence," she said. "Are you certain you want to press charges against your mother?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes," I said. "I am." She nodded once and pulled a form toward her. "Okay," she replied. "Then we start here." And as she began writing, my phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't check it yet, but I already knew who it would be. I didn't look at my phone in the interview room. I kept it face down on the table beside my folder, like it was just another object. Detective Morales continued filling out forms, asking for details in the same steady tone you'd use for a traffic accident. Time, dates, exact amounts. "Do you have reason to believe your brother knew the money was taken without permission?" she asked at one point, pen hovering. "Not yet," I said honestly. "But the purchases were for his wedding." She nodded, writing anyway. "We'll determine involvement. For now, focus on what you can prove." That sentence was simple, but it changed how I thought. Not what I felt, not what I feared, not what my family would say. What I could prove. When the report was complete, Detective Morales gave me a case number and explained the next steps. She warned me that family cases tend to come with pressure and second guessing, not from the system, but from the people around you. "You may get calls," she said. "You may get guilt. Keep everything. Don't delete messages. If they admit anything by text, it matters." "I understand," I said. Outside, the air felt colder than it should have. Evan walked beside me without talking until we got to my car. Only then did he say, "You did it." I nodded once. It didn't feel like I'd done something heroic. It felt like I'd finally stopped participating in something that was quietly ruining me. When I got home, I checked my phone. 17 missed calls. Some from my mother, some from my brother. A few numbers I didn't recognize right away until I saw the area code and realized they were relatives. I didn't call anyone back. I opened my laptop and added a new document to the folder, contact log. Then I started listing what came in. Friday, 2:04 p.m., Caleb calling X3. Friday, 2:17 p.m., Mom calling X6 Friday, 2:22 p.m. Unknown number, aunt, X2. Friday, 2:36 p.m. Voicemail from Caleb. Friday, 2:41 p.m. Text from Mom. I saved everything. Screenshots, voicemails exported, timestamps. I was 2 minutes into this when a text arrived from my brother. Caleb, what did you do? Mom said you called the bank. Are you trying to ruin my wedding? I didn't answer. Another text, immediately. Caleb, I need you to fix this. The venue is booked. The deposits are down. Maya is freaking out. Then a call. I watched it ring until it stopped. Then another message. Caleb, I swear if you go to the police, you're dead to me. I read it, took a screenshot, and put it in the folder. Evan, sitting on my couch with his pizza box, didn't react. He just watched me, like he understood the point wasn't to respond. The point was to document. Keep going, he said quietly. So I did. That evening, my mother texted too. Mom, you're being dramatic. This is family. Call me before you do something you can't take back. I didn't call her. I put the phone face down. Then I waited. Saturday morning, Detective Morales called. Her voice was the same as it had been in the station. Calm, direct. We reviewed your materials, she said. With the footage and the transaction records, we're moving forward with charges against your mother. My heart beat harder, but my voice stayed even. Okay, I said. There's a complication, she continued. Your brother may not be charged if he didn't know the money was stolen, but we will be speaking with him. You should be prepared for that. I understand, I said. After I hung up, I stared at my kitchen counter for a moment, then opened my notes app and wrote down a short list. Not because I was trying to be cold, because my brain works better when things are organized. Step 1, keep everything. Step 2, no calls unless recorded or in writing. Step 3, don't negotiate, don't argue. Step 4, let process do its job. It wasn't revenge, it was order. Around noon, I got the first voicemail from an aunt I barely spoke to. Renee, she said, voice strained like she was already tired of the whole situation. Your mother is beside herself. We all understand you were upset, but calling the police is extreme. You don't want to be the kind of person who does that. I deleted nothing. I saved it. Then I got another. Then another. Most were some variation of the same message. Families don't do this to each other. None said, she stole your card. That part didn't surprise me. Everyone in our family had learned the same rule. Don't make waves. Don't confront. Don't force anyone to admit the obvious. It was easier to make me the problem. By Sunday evening, curiosity caught up with me, and I listened to the rest. My uncle, my cousin, a family friend who hadn't said my name in years, all urging peace, all urging forgiveness, all speaking like the theft itself was a minor detail, like the real issue was that I had refused to stay quiet. That night, I called the one person I thought might at least speak like an adult, my mother's older brother, Uncle Ron. He picked up sounding tired. Renee, he sighed. Your mother says you've misunderstood something. She entered my apartment after midnight, I said. I have the footage. A pause. She said she was trying to help, he replied carefully. Your brother was desperate. You know how weddings are. That wasn't help, I said. That was theft. I'm not saying she was right, he said quickly. But is this really worth tearing the family apart? There it was again. The phrasing that always made the person being harmed responsible for everyone's comfort. I kept my voice even. She had a chance to fix it, I said. She laughed at me instead. Uncle Ron sighed again, the sound of someone choosing the easier side. She mentioned hiring an attorney, he said. She said she has resources. Resources. It landed sharply. Not because I was afraid of a lawyer, because I knew what resources meant in my mother's mouth. Delay, pressure, intimidation, a long game meant to exhaust me until I backed down. After the call, my dad's overnight envelope arrived. It was thick, heavy paper, the kind you don't receive unless something legal is inside. I didn't open it right away. I made tea first. Chamomile, because it was the only thing in my cabinet that didn't feel like a decision. Then I sat at the table and opened the envelope carefully. Inside were documents about my grandfather's estate, the trust, pages of legal language, definitions, beneficiary lists, dates, signatures. I didn't understand all of it at once, but my eyes caught key phrases as I read: conviction, fraud, theft, financial crimes against another family member, forfeit, redistributed among remaining beneficiaries. I set my mug down slowly. I flipped back and found the clause again, read it more carefully, like my brain needed to confirm it wasn't making it up. It was there, in plain terms under all the formal wording. If a beneficiary is convicted of fraud, theft, or financial crimes against another family member, they lose their share. My mother's name appeared on the beneficiary list, so did Caleb's. And then, in another section, it listed the trustee structure, my father first, and me listed as secondary. I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling for a moment, letting the meaning settle without turning it into drama. This wasn't just a criminal case. This was a pressure point my mother hadn't expected. A rule she couldn't argue with, a condition she couldn't guilt anyone into rewriting. I didn't feel excited. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clear. I scanned the relevant pages into my folder and labeled them carefully. Trust, clause, forfeiture.pdf, beneficiary, list.pdf, trustee, authority.pdf. Then I added another note. Step 5. If convictions happen, enforce the clause. That night, I didn't answer any calls. I didn't defend myself. I didn't explain. I just let the pressure roll in and stack up where I could see it, saved and time-stamped. Monday morning, Detective Morales called again. "Ms. Park," she said, "we're going to need one more thing from you." "What is it?" I asked. "A full copy of any communication where your mother admits she used your card," she said. "If you can get her to repeat it in writing, that helps. But don't put yourself at risk. Do you understand?" "I do," I said. After the call, I stared at my phone for a long moment. Then I opened a new text message to my mother. I didn't write anything emotional, just a simple, factual line. And before I could hit send, a new notification popped up at the top of my screen, a message from a number I didn't recognize. It was short. Unknown. Renee. Please call me. It's Maya. I stared at the message for a few seconds before I moved. Maya, Caleb's fiancée, had never contacted me directly. We'd seen each other at holidays, birthdays, the occasional family dinner. She was always polite, always careful, like she'd learned the same family rules I had. Don't challenge my mother, don't poke the bear, keep things light. The fact that she was reaching out now meant something had changed. I didn't call immediately. I took a breath first. Then I picked up my phone and walked to the kitchen so Evan wouldn't hear more than he needed to. I hit call. She answered on the first ring. "Renee?" she said. Her voice was tight, like she'd been holding it together for hours and it was starting to slip. "Yes," I said. "Maya?" "Thank you for calling," she replied quickly. "I didn't know how else to reach you." "It's okay," I said. "What's going on?" There was a short pause. I could hear her breathing, like she was bracing herself. "I didn't know your mom stole the money," she said. "I swear I didn't." I closed my eyes for a moment, not because I was shocked, because I could hear the sincerity in her voice, and it made the situation feel even more real. "Okay," I said gently. "Tell me what you do know." Maya exhaled slowly. "Caleb told me you were helping," she said. "He said you didn't want to be involved directly, and you asked your mom to handle the payments because you were busy." "That's not true," I said, calm and flat. "I know," she replied. "I know that now." I stayed quiet and let her keep going. The police came by yesterday, she said. They asked questions. After they left, I confronted Caleb. I asked him directly if the money was stolen. My grip tightened on the phone. And? I asked. He tried to dodge it at first, she said. He kept saying it was family stuff and that it would get worked out, but then he admitted it. I didn't say anything. I just waited. He told me your mom has been trying to get money from you for months, Maya continued, voice shaking slightly. He said she talked about it constantly, about how you always say no at first, but you eventually cave. The words landed quietly but sharply. Then she said the part that changed the shape of everything. He helped her, Maya said. He told her where you keep your wallet, where you keep your documents. He suggested doing it while you were asleep so you wouldn't notice right away. My stomach dropped, not dramatically, just like a weight settling. So he knew, I said, keeping my voice steady. From the beginning. Yes, she whispered. There was a long moment where neither of us spoke. I stared at the edge of my kitchen counter, letting my brain do what it always does when things get too heavy. Organize the facts. This wasn't my brother passively benefiting from my mother's actions. This was planning, participation, coordination. Maya's voice came back, quieter. I'm calling because I can't marry someone who would do that, she said, to his own sister. I didn't respond right away. I didn't know what to say that would be honest and still calm. You ended it? I asked. Yes, she replied. This morning, I gave him back the ring. Okay, I said softly. I'm not calling to punish him, she added quickly, like she needed me to understand her motive. I'm calling because you deserve the truth. And I have proof. What kind of proof? I asked. Texts, she said. Screenshots. Messages between him and your mom. Messages between him and me. He slipped up when he was panicking and trying to explain it away. My throat tightened. Can you send them to me? I asked. I already did, she replied. Email and text. And if the police need it, I'll talk to them. I'll testify. I believed her. It wasn't a dramatic promise. She sounded exhausted, determined. Thank you, I said, for telling me. I'm sorry, she replied, and her voice cracked on the word. Your family made you think you were the problem. You're not. After we hung up, I stood there for a moment, phone still against my ear, listening to the silence. Then I walked back to my desk and opened my email. Maya had sent a folder link and a series of screenshots attached as images. I didn't skim. I didn't half read. I went through them one by one, slowly, like I was processing evidence for someone else's case. The first set showed my mother telling Caleb she couldn't get Renee to cooperate. Caleb responding, just do it. She'll complain, but she won't actually do anything. Another message. She keeps the card in the desk drawer, back left. There's an envelope. Another. Do it after midnight. She sleeps heavy. Then one that made my fingers go cold on the mouse. She won't press charges. She's too passive. I stared at that line for a few seconds longer than the rest. Not because it hurt, because it clarified. They weren't acting out of desperation. They were acting out of certainty. Certainty that I wouldn't protect myself. I saved everything into my folder, created a new subfolder called Maya Evidence, and labeled each file by date and sender. Then I forwarded the email and attachments directly to Detective Morales with the case number in the subject line. I didn't write a long explanation, just a single sentence. These screenshots show Caleb's prior knowledge and active participation. 20 minutes later, Detective Morales called. Her tone was different, not emotional, just sharper, more focused. These messages change things significantly, she said. If he knowingly participated, we can charge him as an accomplice. Are you prepared for that? I thought about the earlier texts from Caleb, the threats, the entitlement. I thought about how easy it had been for him to assume he could take from me without consequence. Yes, I said. Charge him. Okay, she replied. Then here's what I need. I'll send you a secure upload link as well. Keep your originals. Don't edit anything. Don't crop. Don't annotate. I understand, I said. When I hung up, Evan was watching me from the couch. What happened? He asked. Maya called, I said. Caleb knew. He helped. Evan nodded once, like he'd expected it. Then they're going to panic, he said. He was right. By that evening, my phone had turned into a constant vibration. Calls from my mother's number, calls from Caleb, calls from relatives, messages that swung wildly from rage to pleading. I didn't answer any of them. I just kept building the folder. Monday morning, Detective Morales texted me an update. Caleb had been brought in for questioning. Tuesday afternoon, she called. He's been arrested, she said. Based on the evidence, we have probable cause for conspiracy and fraud-related charges. I closed my eyes, not out of relief, out of a strange, quiet weight. The wedding was effectively over. Maya was gone. The vendors would be scrambling. My family would be furious. But the facts were the facts. That same afternoon, my mother's attorney called. I recognized the rhythm immediately. Professional voice, measured tone, someone trying to sound reasonable while moving you toward their desired outcome. Ms. Park, a man said smoothly when I answered. My name is Richard Hale. I represent your mother. Of course she had a lawyer now. My client admits there was confusion regarding the use of your credit card, he continued. She would like to propose a repayment plan. 12 months, in exchange for resolving this privately. I didn't react. I didn't argue the word confusion. 12 months, I repeated. Yes, he said. These matters are time-consuming, emotionally damaging. Pursuing criminal charges against a parent is expensive. Yes, I said again. My voice stayed even. So is theft. His tone tightened slightly. I'd advise you to reconsider, he said. This will permanently damage your family. I held the phone away from my ear for a second, like giving my nervous system an extra inch of space. Then I said, if my family is damaged by accountability, that isn't something I can fix. There was a short silence. Are you refusing to cooperate? He asked. I'm refusing to withdraw a report, I replied. There's a difference. His voice cooled. Understood, he said. You'll be hearing from us. When the call ended, I didn't sit down right away. I walked to my sink, rinsed my mug, dried my hands, and went back to my desk. Then I opened the trust clause document again and reread it, slowly, from top to bottom. Not because I wanted revenge, because I wanted to be sure I understood the rules. That week moved fast. Charges were filed against my mother and my brother. The prosecutor's office discussed plea options. Detective Morales called and told me there would be a hearing scheduled. Are you planning to attend? She asked. I don't have to, I said. No, she replied. You don't. I looked out my window at the parking lot, at the ordinary movement of ordinary people, and felt something settle. I'm going, I said, not to speak, just to be there. Okay, she said. Then I'll tell you when. Friday morning, my calendar alert popped up with the courthouse address and time, and as I read it, another notification appeared. A voicemail from my mother, left at 6:12 a.m. I didn't play it yet. I just stared at the screen for a moment. Then I set my phone down, opened a clean page in my notes app, and wrote 2 lines. Don't react. Just follow the process. Then I pressed play. My mother's voicemail was quiet enough that I had to hold the phone closer. Renee, she said, and her voice sounded thinner than normal. Please, call me back. Richard says we should take the deal, but that means admitting it in court. On the record. Everyone will know. I know you're angry, but we can fix this privately. Please. She paused, like she was waiting for me to answer from inside the message. Then she added, softer, I didn't think you'd go this far. I listened once. I saved it. I didn't respond. The next voicemail was from Caleb, left 10 minutes later from a number I didn't recognize. He sounded unsteady. I've lost everything, he said, and I could hear him breathing hard between words. Maya left. The wedding's done. Mom's blaming me, and I'm just trying to fix it. Please don't let this go to court. I'll pay you back. I'll do anything. I deleted nothing. I saved it. I still didn't respond. Monday morning, I went to the courthouse early. The building was the kind of place that makes you lower your voice without being told. High ceilings, fluorescent lights, a faint smell of old paper and floor cleaner. People sitting on benches with forms in their laps, all of them looking like they'd rather be anywhere else. I found the courtroom number and sat in the back row. I hadn't come to argue. I hadn't come to stare anyone down. I came because I wanted one thing very clearly in my memory: the moment my family's private behavior became a matter of record. When my mother and Caleb walked in, I almost didn't recognize them. Not physically, just the way they held themselves. My mother's posture was rigid, like she could keep control if she didn't bend. Caleb kept his head down and bounced his knee so hard the fabric of his pants shifted. Their attorney sat beside them, neat and composed, flipping through a file like this was just another Monday. Detective Morales sat 2 rows ahead of me. She turned once, caught my eye, and gave a small nod. Nothing dramatic, just acknowledgement. The judge came in, a woman with gray hair pulled back and a face that looked tired of excuses. Everyone stood, then everyone sat. The clerk read the case information, then the charges: fraud, identity theft-related counts, theft against a family member. Hearing my name attached to those words felt strange, like the air got slightly heavier. The judge looked down at the file, then up at my mother and Caleb. "How do you plead?" she asked. Their attorney stood. "Your Honor," he said, "both defendants wish to enter guilty pleas as part of the prosecution's agreement." It was quiet after that. Not a cinematic silence. Just the kind that happens when a room collectively recognizes the direction things are going. The judge leaned back slightly. "You understand," she said, looking at them carefully, "that a guilty plea is an admission on the record. You will carry criminal convictions." My mother's voice was barely audible. "Yes, Your Honor." Caleb nodded, jaw tight. The judge's eyes stayed on them. "Then you will allocute," she said. "You will tell the court what you did." My mother stood first. Her hands shook as she held them together in front of her. "I entered my daughter's apartment without permission," she said. "I took her credit card from her desk and used it to make charges totaling approximately $15,000 for my son's wedding. I did so after she refused to give me the money." She swallowed hard, then sat down. Caleb stood next. He didn't look up. "I helped plan it," he said. "I told my mother where my sister kept her card. I knew she didn't consent. I spent the money anyway. That was it. No speeches, no justification that held up in a courtroom, just facts." The judge listened without reacting, then spoke in the same steady tone she'd used from the beginning. "This court accepts the pleas," she said. "You will each serve 3 years probation. You will complete 200 hours of community service. You will attend court-ordered counseling. You will make full restitution as ordered. Any violation will result in immediate incarceration." Her gavel struck once, clean and final. As people stood and began to file out, my mother turned in her seat and looked toward the back. Our eyes met for a second. She had tears in hers, not the angry kind, the defeated kind. I didn't nod. I didn't glare. I just held my expression steady and looked away. In the hallway, Caleb tried to step toward me. "Renee?" he started. His attorney touched his arm and pulled him back gently, like he knew this wasn't the place for emotional negotiations. I didn't stop walking. 3 days later, the calls started again. Not the angry ones this time, the desperate ones. Relatives who had called me extreme on Sunday were now calling to ask what they could do to help heal the family. My mother texted that she was ready to talk. Caleb asked if we could meet somewhere neutral. I didn't answer any of it. Then Friday morning, I got a call from an unfamiliar number. "This is Natalie from Cornerstone Bank," a woman said professionally. "Your mother and brother listed you as a reference on a joint personal loan application." I stood at my kitchen window and watched a car pull into the parking lot like it was any other day. "What kind of loan?" I asked, even though I already knew. "A $15,000 personal loan," she said. "They indicated it's to satisfy a court-ordered restitution payment. We're verifying references." "I'm not involved," I said evenly, "and I don't consent to being used for their application." "Understood," Natalie replied. "Thank you for your time." When the call ended, I didn't feel anger. I felt something like confirmation. Even after court, even after the record, even after probation, their first instinct was still to reach for me as a resource. That afternoon, I called my dad. "I'm ready to enforce the trust clause," I said. He didn't hesitate. "Okay," he replied. "I'll send the paperwork to the trustee administrator. The convictions trigger it automatically, but we still have to file the formal notice." "Send it," I said. After we hung up, I sat at my desk, opened my evidence folder, and made one more subfolder. Trust enforcement. I copied the certified court record I'd requested that morning. I saved the case disposition notice. I saved the voicemail files. I saved the bank call log entry. Then I closed my laptop. The next steps weren't emotional. They were administrative. And for the first time in my life, the system of rules around my family was finally working the way rules are supposed to work. That night, I made tea again, set my phone face down, and waited for my dad's email with the filing confirmation. The email from my dad came the next morning. It was short, practical, and attached to it was a scanned confirmation page with a stamped date. The notice had been filed. The trust administrator had acknowledged receipt. The clause was active. I read the email twice, not because I didn't understand it, but because part of me still expected something to jump out and stop it. A loophole, a technicality, a new way for my mother to bend reality back into her favor. Nothing did. The convictions were on record. The condition was clear. The process moved forward without caring about anyone's feelings, including mine. About 2 months later, the redistribution finalized. My mother's share, just under $200,000, was forfeited. Caleb's share was forfeited too. The trust was rebalanced across the remaining beneficiaries, and because of how it was structured, my portion changed. The number wasn't huge in the context of an estate, but it was meaningful in the context of my life. $14,000 landed in my account. I stared at the deposit line on my screen for a long time. It didn't feel like winning. It felt like a door quietly locking behind me. I moved it into a high-yield savings account the same day and labeled the account something plain. Buffer. Not freedom, not justice, not anything dramatic, just buffer, protection, a margin between me and anyone who thought they could reach into my life and take what they wanted. A week after the redistribution, I drove past my mother's house. I told myself I was just taking the long way home, that I was curious, that I wanted closure. But when I parked across the street and saw the lights on inside, I realized I'd come because some part of me still wanted to understand what accountability looked like on the other side. My phone buzzed. A text from her. "Mom, I know you're outside. Please come in." I sat in the car for a moment with my hands on the steering wheel, engine off, just listening to the quiet. Then I got out and walked to the front door. Inside, the house felt smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just emotionally. The furniture was the same, but the energy was different. Paperwork covered the dining table. Loan offers, budgets, rejection letters, a few envelopes already opened and stacked like they'd been handled too many times. My mother stood near the kitchen, shoulders slightly rounded. Caleb was there too, leaning against the counter with his arms crossed, watching me like I'd walked into a room he didn't want to share. "We don't have the money," my mother said quietly. "The loan interest is brutal. They don't want to approve it." I looked at the table, then back at her. "Not my problem," I said. Caleb pushed off the counter, irritation flashing across his face. "You did this to us," he said. I didn't raise my voice. "No," I replied evenly. "You did this to yourselves." He shook his head like he couldn't accept that the story had changed. "You're supposed to forgive family," he said, sharper now. "That's what people do." I waited a beat before answering. "That isn't forgiveness," I said. "That's enabling." My mother's eyes watered. Her voice cracked. "We'll have nothing left," she whispered. "No savings, no future." I nodded slightly, not in agreement, just acknowledgement. "You'll have what everyone else has," I said. "What you earn." The room went quiet. Then my mother asked the question I think she'd been holding since the day the police report was filed. "Do you hate us?" she said. I looked at her for a moment and let myself be honest without being cruel. "No," I said. "I don't hate you. I just don't trust you. And I may never again." That was the most complete truth I had. I didn't stay long after that. There was nothing left to negotiate. No apology could change what had already been planned, carried out, and admitted in court. I left and drove home without music. When I got back to my apartment, I did one small thing that made the whole week feel real. I cleaned. Not a deep clean. Just the kind of quiet reset I used to do on Sunday nights. Wiping counters, folding a blanket, rinsing dishes, putting things back where they belonged. Then I made tea and sat on my couch with my phone face down. And the silence felt different now. Not empty. Owned. The restitution payment hit my account on the final possible day, right before the deadline, exactly as the court order required. I didn't reply. I didn't thank anyone. I just saved the confirmation and moved on. Over the next couple of months, my mother texted occasionally. Short messages, stiff apologies at first, then slightly more human ones. Updates about therapy, notes about trying to do better. Caleb stopped reaching out entirely. I heard through a cousin that he'd taken a customer service job and was starting over. Good. Starting over is what happens when you finally have to live inside your own choices. Life got quieter in a way I didn't realize I needed. I slept better. I stopped jumping when my phone buzzed. I stopped feeling guilty for having boundaries. I started noticing how much energy I'd spent my whole life managing other people's emotions. One afternoon, a coworker mentioned something casually that made me pause. She laughed and said, "My mom opened a credit card in my name years ago. I found out when I tried to rent an apartment." She said it like it was a weird family story, something to shrug at. I remember just looking at her for a second, realizing how common this kind of thing is, how many people are quietly carrying it. And it made me think about how many strong daughters and sons are only strong because they've been forced to be. If someone listening to this is dealing with a family member who keeps crossing lines, money, access, guilt, control, please hear this in a simple way. You don't have to argue to be right. Sometimes the calmest thing you can do is document, lock the door, and follow the process. If you stayed with me through this one, thanks for listening. If you'd like more real stories told in a calm, steady way, tap like and subscribe. And tell me in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is for you right now. I always like seeing where everyone's listening from. 2 popular stories will be playing next, so I'll see you there.